What was your worst hotel stay experience and what made it so terrible? I needed to find a hotel in Dayton. Oh, because of my daughter's gymnastics competition. I read online reviews and the travel lodge there got good reviews. The price was good too. So I booked it. I had difficulty finding it because it was dark and their sign wasn't lit. Parking lot was pitch black. Just outside the entrance there were two sketchy guys that looked like they were negotiating a drug deal. Inside the motel lobby was dimly lit with flickering lights. The room was no better. Stained sheets, holes in the bedspread and hair in the shower. The fitness room consisted of a stair stepper that was broken and an old TV on the ground that was also broken. I told the front desk that I wanted to cancel our reservation. She said, "I don't blame you. This place is gross. I had an interview at Kohl's and hope they hire me so I can quit this place." My dad went to a hotel once and checked into a first floor room. He went in the room, put his stuff down, opened the curtains, and a man was hiding there. My dad went, "Excuse me," closed the curtains, got his stuff and left. Went to the front desk to explain that a man was hiding in his room. Turns out the guy had just robbed a place and somehow got into the room with an open window. I stayed at a travel lodge a few years back. Went to get into bed and there was a blood stain on the sheet right in the middle of the bed. Pulled the sheet back and there was a huge puddle of it on the mattress. Still wet. Not nice. The bathroom locked from the outside. If you accidentally shut the door all the way, you had to have someone in the room open the door for you when you were done. If you were by yourself, you were sole until someone came back, or you called the front desk from the bathroom to send someone up. This was pre-mainstream cell phone usage, so you may not have had your phone on you at all times. Needless to say, we got our stay calmed. Motel 7 in El Paso had a software problem. Lost track of occupied rooms. Rather than checking, they issued keys to possibly occupied rooms and waited to see if anyone complained. I twice opened my new hotel room door to find other guests in there. Jesus. The air conditioner was spitting out ice while I was sleeping. Woke up thinking I wet myself but then realized half the bed was soaked. Other than that it was fine. Edit. Holy it, thanks for all the updates. First time I've had more than 10. The toilet overflowed so exuberantly I leaped up to the edge of the bathtub to escape the flow. Then there was the tricky matter of getting from the bathtub to anywhere else without stepping in lake toilet. Edit. That floor flooded so quickly there wasn't even time to walk directly out the door. I wasn't going to stand in a filthy puddle looking for the angle valve. Edit 2. People asked how this predicament ended. In Hollywood adventure movies, heroes swing from tree to tree by clinging to vines while avoiding lurking crocodiles in the swamp below. My escape was sort of like that, except it involved grabbing the top edge of a hotel bathroom door and leveraging that for extra distance in a leap that barely avoided a floating wad of used toilet paper. Drove halfway across Florida and collapsed into bed in an Econo Lodge in Crystal River. Noticed a funky smell coming from around the headboard. I lifted the mattress and found a used condom. Checked into a casino hotel in Shreveport. Put our stuff in the room and then went to the casino. Came back hours later and could not get into our room. Traipsed to the front desk to find out why the card key was not working. Was informed that our room had to be exterminated due to an infestation. When I inquired what type of infestation, I was told that the desk clerk was not allowed to divulge that information. Got hotel manager and he led us back to our room. Let us in and the place was tossed. Furniture overturned. Mattress off of bed. etc. There was our luggage and belongings pretty much where we left them. Manager then took us to our new room and gave us the key cards for it. I asked how the hell do you check someone into a room then discover it is infested with whatever? He was unable to adequately answer my question. I asked him about what type of extermination chemicals they used because our stuff had been exterminated as well. He again could not comment. Wound up throwing out any consumables. Didn't wear anything from our luggage and checked out early the next morning. Never to return again to that hotel. When we got home, washed everything in the hottest water available. As an aside, itched for a couple of days afterward, but this was probably power of suggestion. Not the worst. But the TV in my room turned on by itself at 4 AM. There's no way I could have done it myself. I just plugged it out. Thought about it for a few minutes, then went back to sleep. Went to a historic hotel in Chattanooga, TN. Walked in the room. Blood everywhere. The bathtub. The curtains. The walls. Floor. Amp. Everywhere. Hotel refused to move us. We moved ourselves to a different hotel at night. Happened over Christmas time in China. Came back to the hotel after dropping my boyfriend off at the airport, so was clearly not in the best mood, only to find a lot of my belongings moved around the room and items missing, including my passport. There was food that she moved into the bathroom. My deodorant was in the shower and my shower gel was on the TV cabinet. Things were taken out of my suitcase and other items were put into my suitcase. Jewelry was on the floor, etc. Just really random stuff had been moved. I had to go to reception and try to speak Mandarin. I was studying and explain the situation. My passport was the main issue and I managed to get it back, but I had gifts from my mum that were thrown out. Turns out the cleaner had taken my passport with the sheets to the laundry room, which is crazy as it was actually in a cupboard. No safe available. Checked out 2 weeks early and got a refund for all the missing items. She admitted to throwing them away, but she wouldn't say anything about why she had gone through my things or why she had moved anything. Not really a bad experience. But once I stayed in a hotel where the hot and cold water feeds for the room were plumbed the wrong way round. The water in the toilet bowl was boiling hot and kind of steamed your butt when you use it. Stayed at a Holiday Inn in Toronto and the rooms around us were doing something. A party, or dealing drugs or something, but a lot of noise. A lot of people coming and going and a lot of people slamming doors. We called front desk a dozen times and they didn't do anything. Kick them out. Move them to another floor. Something. I shouldn't leave a hotel wishing I had just driven home instead. Incredibly frustrating. I have a pretty low bar for hotels. I want a comfy bed and some quiet so I can sleep. That's it. Don't care that much about Wi-Fi, TV, fancy amenities etc. I'm just here for a good night's sleep. And I don't think we went longer than 30 minutes with a wall shaking door slam. Williston, North Dakota. In the year 2000, construction workers showed up at 11 PM and began noisily doing work, talking loudly, right outside our room. After I complained to the front desk, they got nasty and pounded on the walls of our room. I was about 4 at the time, so this is mostly based off my siblings' stories, even though I remember a few still shots. We were at a hotel with some family friends and their kids, 5 kids total, us included, ages 4-13. Parents put us all in the same room to chill in the evening as they went out to do adult things, probably a fancy dinner. Was chilling on the bed watching a movie, and then all of a sudden we heard a loud noise. The floor vibrated a bit, and then, I kid you not, hundreds if not thousands of mini spiders started flying up the walls, in from 2 of the bottom corners in the room. After a butchered attempt to defend our ground by using marshmallows and ice cubes as projectiles, we huddled up in the bathroom where we had the bottom of the door sealed with a towel. I slept in the bathtub with my sister that night. There were no phones to call for help. This was before kids teens ever had cells, and we were very clearly instructed to not leave the room under any circumstances. We took those instructions a bit too seriously. My parents discovered the crime scene in the middle of the night, and probably woke up the whole floor with their initial scream. We all ended up okay though. TLDR, as kids alone in a hotel room, we got swarmed by a metric ton of spiders. Failed to defend ourselves. Huddled up in the bathroom where we spent the night with no way to call for help. Edit. Thought it might be interesting to note that my sister is still arachnophobic to this day because of the situation. Also added TLDR. Edit 2. Fixed spelling. I caught an Uber to my Airbnb, which was a little guest house next to the host's main house in Florida. I guess they were confused about hearing a car pull up but seeing an empty driveway. I was confused because they forgot to put toilet paper in the bathroom. We were both confused when they walked into the guest house to see me butt naked walking across the living room to get some paper napkins from the kitchen. We, of course, both rated each other 5/5 stars. At the peak of Comdex's popularity in Las Vegas, I got stuck at the Tropicana. In those days, the infrastructure in Vegas couldn't handle the Comdex influx. My flight landed at midnight, but it took me until 4 AM to get to the hotel and wait through a 300-person line at the front desk. When I finally collapsed in my bed and entered that hazy almost asleep state, it occurred to me that I was wet. Why should I be wet? I thought hazily. Then my eyes snapped open. I should not be wet. I jumped out of bed and pulled the covers back to see that piss had soaked out of the mattress, and the sheets were soaked and yellow with it. Clearly the maids had realized that the previous guest had pissed the bed, as they had placed a towel under the fitted sheet. So, yeah, I had been lying in someone else's piss. BTW, this was my second room, as the first room they gave me a key to was occupied by a startled man in his tighty whities. A few years ago I was staying at a hotel on the Las Vegas Strip and they had construction going on. Construction related faulty wiring or something kept causing the alarm to go off. False alarm. And periodically a recorded voice would say there was some kind of incident and to stay in your room until otherwise notified. All night long. Couldn't get any sleep and I had to get up early and work all day. I was dragging. On a work trip I was put in the most disgusting hotel room, to the point where I didn't feel comfortable and couldn't sleep. A pile of dirt and dust in the corner that I imagine would take years to accumulate. Brown stains on the lampshades. Food under the bed. Water damage in the pictures in picture frames. The whole room smelt moldy. The hairdryer was sticky. TV remote was sticky and covered in food. Stuff all over the walls. Where in the shower, the toilet bowl was stained red. Everything felt gross and grimy. Hot water didn't work in my room. Cold showers, anyone? I felt like a walking zombie that work trip. It felt so disgusting I really couldn't sleep. My co-worker in the next room over, his room door didn't fully shut, and he used the latch at the top to close it. The door was still open a couple inches and he put a chair in front of the door, and didn't sleep at all that trip either. Edit. The hotel room on my last work trip was much nicer. As customer service manager of Central Reservation in a resort town, a booking called our office because the kids staying in town for a soccer tournament all ran out to the pool and jumped in. They quickly realized that a dead man was floating in the pool. According to the medical examiner, he drowned about 8 hours previously. My office refunded our 10% commission. I stayed in a place in Port Talbot in Wales, UK, to break up a long drive. It was about what you'd imagine a cheap hotel would be like in Port Talbot. Air smelled like depression and hopelessness. Bathroom had multiple cigarette burns and it was just generally run down. Function room was more of a local bar and had live music playing, so it was just really loud until quite late. Didn't get murdered in my sleep though, so it all worked out. Went to an MTG tournament in Baltimore. Stayed in a Motel 6 because we couldn't get our it together and get a room at a decent hotel sooner. The place was about a block from the light rail, which went right to the convention center. That was about the highest point of the whole trip. Apart from food poisoning and my binder worth a few thousand getting stolen, the room had a decided dip in one corner where I'm sure the floor was rotting away. When it rained, the bathroom started to leak through the light fixture, and our bonehead roommate put all the towels underneath it instead of, I don't know, the garbage can, which meant we couldn't dry off too well the second day. I know it was more or less our own fault for not acting faster before hotel prices jumped, but the place was a shithole even by Motel 6 standards. Wiffy and I were on a road trip before Google Maps, and it was late at night. Part 1. We found a hotel brochure at a roadside rest stop and called to book a room. Probably a Holiday Inn or something. When we got to the hotel, which was about 10 kilometers off the highway, it seemed nice and we checked in. We get in the elevator and the door opens on our floor. There was one giant prom party going on with kids, music, and booze everywhere. We didn't even get off the elevator. Fortunately the staff was understanding, but it was already late and we had to move on. Part 2. Later that night we found a hojo and pulled in. We get to the desk absolutely exhausted, like 2 AM at this point. The attendant was this young man. He was on the phone, clearly being broken up with. The call went on for at least 20 minutes, and he was very upset. He finished with, "Well, I hope you have a nice life too." But eventually he finished his call and let us book a room. It was on the beach, but the gates to the beach were locked after 10. So after a late night on the water and going to a crab shop on a pier, we walked back to the hotel from the back over about 2 miles of beach in the dark. But that's when we realized that the hotel was locked and the buildings were wall against wall, so there was no chance for us to cross to the front. So my family and I saw the neighboring hotel, jumped the fence, ran across the closed pool floor, and as we opened the gate to the front of the strip, a security light flashed on us and the light immediately revealed a sign saying trespassers would be prosecuted. Also, the beds were sandy. Last year for Valentine's Day I got a room for my wife and I at a really nice hotel. It was pretty expensive, but all the reviews said it was really nice and the rooms were big. We get in and the staff was extremely rude. We don't look like the kind of people who can afford to spend a lot on a hotel room, and the staff were just assholes. They made us feel like we didn't belong there. We got up to the room and it was super tiny. It was boiling in the room and the air conditioning didn't work. Asked the staff if there was a way to fix it and they just ignored us. The hotel had mandatory valet parking for guests. Guests couldn't park their own cars in the hotel's garage. Visitors had to use numbered parking spots assigned by the attendant. When Dad retrieved his car from valet parking, several things had been stolen, including his golf clubs from the trunk, even though the hotel maintained that the car had been locked and was secure in their parking garage. Wasn't because of the hotel but because of one of the roommates I was told I'd be sharing the room with. This was during a convention in Pittsburgh in summer of 2017 and a good friend of mine has room space he offered me. Everything seems to be fine. We have our max of 4 people in the room, 2 per bed, until late into the first night. I finished playing cards with a group at about 1:40 in the morning and head up to the room to now find a camera and lighting set up in the room and an additional 3 guys, naked, on the bed I'm supposed to be sleeping in. Our 4th roommate decided it would be totally fine to film pornography in the room without anyone's consent. Oh, and that it would be okay to use the cosplays that were stored in totes and in the closet for the pornography. Thankfully not my own. It doesn't stop here. After me and my friend shut down the porn shoot and finally get new sheets on the bed to go to sleep, a group of people show up at the door expecting to be invited in by the 4th roommate. They were all turned down. 4th roommate puts up a fight because he has a right to use the room. He had not paid for the space yet, promising my friend he would have it the next morning when it's directed to his account from work. He got thrown out that night. I also added the threat that if my personal belongings showed up in the video that I would sue him if it showed up anywhere. I don't exactly know if that has any legal bearing to it, but I feel it at least worked because nobody within his circle seems to have seen the tape. I checked into a hotel the morning of my wedding. The first thing I notice is a cell phone charging on the desk. I call the front desk, and they have somebody come get it. I then proceeded to take a shower and start preparations to get ready for said wedding. There is a do not disturb sign on the door. No pressure in shower. I get out and dry off, then walk into the room barely holding a towel in front of me. The maid unlocks the door and walks in without knocking. I frantically cover up and ask why the hell she's entering without permission and ask her to leave. She doesn't. She says she forgot her phone in the room. Inform her they took it to the front desk and ask again for her to leave. She continues to talk about her phone and come further into my room as I am barely covered in a towel. I more loudly tell her it's at the front desk and to leave immediately. Continues to blabber about her dang phone and how she needs the pictures from it. Yell for her to get the F out. Finally get her out and have to call security. SMH. I paid like $300 a night to stay at a fancy hotel for work in Park City, UT in the summer for a conference. They put me in this room with a kitchen and a living room and so many doors. Like 4 closed doors. So I go to open one and it's locked. And the next one is locked. All of them are locked. And then I realize there is no bed. Not even a couch bed. Just a couch. They literally gave me a room that didn't have a bed. It was the adjoining living room for other hotel rooms. And I checked my reservation and it said I booked a room with a bed. I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone when I went to the lobby and asked where was my bed at my hotel and they didn't see the problem. It took almost 3 hours to get it sorted while I'm arguing that paying for a hotel is for the bed. Had to stay on site on a hotel. Sounds fun until you realize it's just so you can't run the hotel 24/7 without ever getting a break from your job. Mine was so bad we left. I was about 6-7 and we got a late start on the 8-hour drive to Orlando. So my parents decided to make a stop at a hotel. Well, we get to the room and everything felt off. They brought in a folding bed for me and the blankets and sheets looked faded from age and disuse. Look in the bathroom and there was 4 spider webs in the shower and roaches all over the place. Parents checked the main bed and there was bugs and hair under the blanket. We noped out of there in less than 30 minutes and got our money back. 97 was a wild time apparently. My now husband and I were driving from Street, pulled to LA, and stopped in Rapid City the first night. We had reservations, but they somehow got lost, so they charged us more for a bigger room. We had been driving all day, it was freezing cold, and all we wanted was a hot shower and some food. There was no hot water. There was no room service after 8 PM and they wouldn't tell us if any restaurants nearby would deliver. At checkout I tried to get them to reduce our bill at all and pretty much got laughed at. This wasn't even a seedy motel either, it's a large chain that I'm sure could afford to take off $50 for generally sucking it. I guess I'm allowed to say the name. Duck you days in. Got booked at a hotel as temporary housing when my house flooded by insurance. The bathrooms got ducked up so they were unlivable, and the floor repair company wouldn't be able to fix anything for 2-3 weeks. So what does insurance do? Books us 2 days at a hotel. We got swapped around 3 different hotels, only one of which was appropriately sized for our family of 4. After the third one I decided duck it and redid the bathrooms myself because we couldn't handle the stress of needing to swap hotels again because they refused to get us a place any longer than a couple days. This was 1999. My buddies came up to visit me in Ottawa for reading week. The deal was we all agreed to visit each other over that week once for every year of university. So year 1, we all went to see Rob. The next year we all went to see Tony, which was cheap because he went to school back home. Year 3 we went to Bert and the last year they came to see me. One problem. Rob and Bert both made arrangements with their housemates for the rest of us to crash there for a week. I had a bad roommate experience in second year and I lived alone in a tiny apartment, basically a heated shed, so there was literally nowhere for them to sleep in my place. I asked them how much they were okay with paying per night for a place, and I would of course go in with them. They said $50 a night. I misunderstood and thought they meant $50 a night total, not each, $200 a night. So I scoured the city and found a place for $55 a night that was on a direct bus line to downtown bars. I arrived on the train 5 hours late. The train had significant difficulties involving some sort of livestock barricade. Tony had gone over 10 hours without a cigarette and was in a peachy mood. Anyway, I grabbed them and we take a cab over to the motel, which was in a red part of town. I had already checked us in so we headed straight upstairs and Rob is like, dude, how ducking expensive is this town if this place is $200 a night? Me, it's not. It's $55. I told you I couldn't find anything cheaper. Rob, we meant $50 each. You dumbus. Had I clued in, there were any number of places, some with kitchens that we could have stayed at the time for well under $200 with enough sleeping area for 4 people. I apologized but said there was a corner store next door, a McDonald's next to that and a liquor store across the street so we should be good for everything we'd want to do. We were 22, so we went out, grabbed some MCDs, grabbed some liquor, okay, a lot of liquor, and then Tony and me headed to the corner store for some pop and juice, sending the other 2 back with the booze. We grab our drinks, walk out and 2 guys in masks head in. Tony doesn't notice them, but I do and calmly whisper to him to increase his walking speed because I think they're about to get robbed. His reaction? What? And runs as fast as he can back to the motel. Rob and Bert aren't buying that the place is getting robbed until about 10 minutes later. The cops are all over the place. This was the first instance of where the duck did your book US Drago. We calmed down and watched some TV and start heavy drinking. Tony and I were bigger dudes so it was decided that we should not share the same bed to maximize space. Everyone thought it was fair. Tony falls asleep, passes out after wrestling and proceeds to start snoring so loudly he was drowning out the TV. We're all laughing at him at this point and just decide to keep drinking and shooting the it. At some point we ran out of ice, so rock paper scissors later. Bert loses and grabs the bucket. He returns 5 seconds later and says, "Drink your it warm, boys." Okay, why? Go take a look. Rob and me go and, holy ducking lord, long as trail of blood all along the walkway leading from a room 2 doors down to the outside staircase. Bonus information, there's an AX stuck in that door. We lock up and call front desk and the guy calmly says, "Yeah, we know. We called the cops. They'll come over when they're done next door." Second instance of where the duck did you book US Draco. Now, my whole life, my defense mechanism for stress has been to sleep. So that's what I do. Now they've got 2 Italian bears snoring. But what's better is that we weren't snoring in unison. We were alternating. When Tony was exhaling, I was snoring and vice versa. So it was apparently like one big long constant snore. Eventually, they can't handle it anymore and wake us up. I volunteer to sleep in the bathroom since I can sleep anywhere. Tony just stays up the rest of the night since he'd already gotten 4 hours sleep. The next morning we're all awake and Rob and Bert apologized to me for being harder on me than they should have. We all agreed just to make the best of it, have a good time and let the booze force sleeping to happen. Day 2 was fun. We went out and grabbed beaver tails, hit up a couple of bars. Rob was particularly popular at RJ's Boom Boom Saloon. Bert nearly got into a fight at the Molson cabin after hitting on a receptive young lady who was not alone. Side note, I loved that bar. At the time, on the last Tuesday of the month, they'd charge a cover, $20, to get you in for $1 beers and free tequila chasers. On $40 you'd be stumbling out. Anyway, it was a good time. We went back to the motel and it had been cleaned up, so we started post-game consumption. After a couple of hours, around 1 AM, we start hearing this violin fiddle playing. It's not stopping. Learning our lesson from last night, 2 of us go and investigate, me and Rob. It's coming from downstairs. So Rob and I head down. It's an old man in a wheelchair, playing the fiddle in front of his motel room. No pants, cock and balls out, wearing only a Superman t-shirt that fit more like a crop top. Third instance of where the duck did you book US. Bert thinks this is the funniest it he's ever heard and for whatever reason must see this for himself. He forces Tony to go with him and the fiddling suddenly stops. We hear the distinct bellowing from Tony of what the duck along with Bert's signature belly laugh. They come back upstairs and Bert says they convinced him to go back inside his motel room. Tony interjects, "Yeah, but not before he pointed his D at us and made machine gun noises." We think this is the end of it. However, none of us had noticed that his room was directly under ours. Drunk Christopher Reeve, as Rob referred to him as, kept playing all night, again while Tony and I slept and snored alternatively like bears. In the morning we woke up and both Bert and Rob were wide awake and said they'd been up all night and that both of us had to GTFO until lunch so they could sleep. So the 2 of us went to breakfast and then bummed around a nearby library for a few hours. We came back and both Rob and Bert are waiting outside with everyone's bags saying they checked us out. I said, "Okay, did you call around to find another place?" He said no, but he wasn't staying here another night and we'd find another place just bumming around near the bars on Elgin. I said I was sorry about the snoring and everything. He said that wasn't it. Apparently, when he woke up he felt something underneath the fitted sheet, under his hand, which was under his pillow as he slept. It was a menstrual pad. I used, face down, menstrual pad, surrounded by dead ants, not bed bugs. He had got the motel to refund us the 2 nights and cancel the booking. We ended up staying at a perfectly nice hotel downtown called Les Suites for about $45 each a night for the rest of the week. Simultaneous worst hotel motel stay of our lives. But hilarious stories for 20 years. TLDR. Booked a motel with friends and inside of 48 hours dealt with armed robbery, axes, blood trails, naked disabled man using D and a fiddle as a weapon and other body fluids. At a Holiday Inn, the alarm clock was broken. It went off at 2 AM without the alarm being set and would not stop with the sleep button. I had to get up and unplug it, but by then I was already so awake I just didn't go back to sleep.